I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 17th, brought to you in part by Vitalix. A lot of you guys are dry wintering cattle right now and then just kind of keeping them going on some hay or some stockpiled grass that doesn't have a lot to it. A lot of times that hay is not of the best quality, and you trying to get these cattle through the winter here, and sometimes it's in sharply cold conditions here, and sometimes wet or snow or whatever, but those cattle need energy and nutrients to get through there. Good way to get that is through some lick tubs there. If you're interested in that, get the blue tub, Vitalix.com. Southern Plains, $2 higher, and that's a welcome sight there to see that we sold the bulk of the cattle, and they did sell the bulk of their cattle on Wednesday in the Southern Plains, $2 higher at 142. There was some negotiating going on, which makes you feel good about the little bit of cash trade that we had. The only reason that we're getting any negotiation in our cash trade is because market ready supplies are tight. So that means that the packers have to lean a little bit heavier, albeit very little, on the cash trade that they get. And their margins are tightening. Their box beef cutout values have been dropping like a rock here, and having to give a little bit more money for fat cattle. I mean, they absolutely hate to do that, but they had to give more this week so far. And actually the Northern Plains, which has the higher quality cattle, didn't really help them in that feat, as we saw some guys in the Southern Plains get the 142 bid on Wednesday morning, and a lot of them were passing those bids. They wanted to get a little bit more, but the Northern Plains started succumbing to that 142 and even a little bit lower than that in some cases, and so they had to end up giving or taking that 142. Hopefully the guys that passed it didn't get blackballed and won't get a call for a couple of weeks. But as hungry as these packers are, as they're trying to crank up the chain speeds a little bit, they likely ended up getting those cattle sold. But why does the Northern Plains not get along as well as they normally do? Because there's very little premium to the higher grading cattle right now. It widened a little bit on Wednesday, but on Tuesday's close, our choice select spread was only $2.50. So that's not a whole lot to be giving big prices for those cattle up in the Northern Plains, even though they are higher quality. And I mean by by quality is grading quality. The guys, they don't have any reason to give more for them. So they need to fill their coffers in the Southern Plains, because they don't buy that many cash cattle down there. And when they get a chance to buy them and they're short bought and there's tight supplies of market ready cattle, then they will do it. But also the Northern Plains weren't fighting much for the live price, because they were selling the bulk of their cattle on a dress basis, and they gained mostly $2 on the dress basis on Wednesday, as they were selling the bulk of their cattle at $2.26. And so if guys were able to get that on a dress basis or in the beef, then they were going to jump at the chance to do that. These cattle are dressing really well. There's not much tag out there, as there's not any mud at all in the Northern Plains really to speak of. And I told you guys over the weekend when I was there up in Nebraska on the eastern side last weekend, that you could walk across those pens in sock feet and not get in trouble when you got home. But pretty good trade, fat cattle trade on Wednesday, and that will be the bulk of the trade. Let's talk about your board. On Wednesday, February live cattle futures were up 22 cents at 143.12, and that's going to be pretty tight with the Northern Plains trade, but just a slight premium to the bulk of the sales. April up 2 cents at 146.92. Go on your back months, your live cattle futures, and they were up 2 cents to up 65, and the up 65 was on the farthest out traded month. How about feeder cattle? How about March contracts? They were down $1.27, and then they are starting to kind of get back in line because March is coming up here before long, getting back in line with cash prices, as we've seen that our bigger feeder cattle, those heavier feeder cattle weighing over 8, have been falling off a little bit in your auctions this week, as the out fronts on your live cattle have not gained as fast as the nearbys and as the feeder cattle contracts have. So they just have to back up a little bit. Well, you know, with our index level sitting at 161 or 2, that 167.45 is a huge premium. And like I said, March is coming up here pretty quick. How about April feeder cattle futures down 37s all, which is not bad at all, at 172.17. Your back months on your feeder cattle were down 37 cents to up 27 cents, so not much at all. And if you go out and look at some of those fall contracts like September, it's almost 188 based on an 800-pound steer, which sounds awfully high. How about your grains? They were up quite a bit on Wednesday after being down there earlier in the week. Corn was up 9 cents, trading at 6.47 on the close there for your regular trading. How about beans? Up 36.25 cents at 15.87.5. Kansas City hard red winter wheat just up 2 cents at 8.08, as they are expecting some snow across a big portion of your hard red winter wheat region middle part of this week, or later this week I should say. How about your fat cattle trade? We did see our market established on Wednesday. Didn't have that much trade in the northern plains, but did have a lot of trade in the southern plains. As I told you, they gained $2. But guys late in the day were really coming at that 226 dressed, which was $2 higher, and there was likely more trade than what I'm going to give you that was confirmed. But Iowa had 2,700 confirmed live sales from 141 to 143, dress sales from 225 to 226. Nebraska 8,800 head confirmed on Wednesday from 142 to 143, and dress sales all at 226. Kansas 13,700 head. That's a pretty good movement for them for one day confirmed, and there was likely more than that fell after the 2 o'clock deadline to turn that stuff in. But live sales from 140 to 142.25, but almost entirely at 142. Texas 6,800 head, and similar to Kansas, 140 to 142.5, but almost all at 142. Box beef cutout values, we saw earlier in the week that they had an uneven day, but that did not establish any kind of support for them, and they continue to fall and likely to fall until late this month. But choice cuts on Thursday afternoon down 75 cents at 269.62. Selects down $1.74 at 266.08. Your slaughter continues at a really good clip, 366,000 through the first 3 days of this week, and that was 1,000 more than the same level last week. And a year ago this week, they were falling way behind and only had 296,000 because of winter storms. Talk about what else is going on. If you guys are interested in locking your price in, and I've told you, and I just quoted that September feeder cattle quote, how handsome these out front figures are, especially on your feeder cattle, and also on your live cattle too. If you guys want to lock that in, but you're not interested in taking a CME position, you just rather pay a premium, one price premium there, and get some government assistance there through a livestock risk protection policy, and you're looking for an outfit that's really professionals at that and experts, get a hold of Livestock Risk Services. They office right there in the Exchange Building at the Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City. They know what's going on. It's going on right around them there. But go to livestockriskservices.com and get a hold of them for an LRP. Talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 161.17. and down 32 cents. And it's been a little bit lower this week, as I told you guys a little bit earlier. These bigger, heavier feeder cattle, guys are just backing off of them a little bit. They would rather go down and feed some of those middleweight cattle, even though feed's high. If you go out and look at those out front numbers on your board and on the LRPs, you know, you can lock those cattle in at a profit, but you got to get down in the weights a little bit. But 161.17 down 32 cents. Talk to you about something that's coming up on Friday here, and it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but I encourage you guys to participate in the Global Agriculture Day of Prayer. It's there's going to be an event held at the Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. It's going to be in the morning from 7:30 to 8:30 Eastern, but they're wanting this to be a nationwide thing, or really a global thing, and we're going to be praying for rain. I know that through the plains for sure. We desperately need rain. I mean, from the bottom of Texas all the way to the top of North Dakota, as the drought conditions are really, really bad. And if we don't get some measurable rain before it comes time to plant that corn, we could be in some desperate trouble here on our feed costs. But you can participate and you can watch that online and participate in that on Friday morning from 7:30 to 8:30, and that's Eastern time, so it's going to be even earlier than that if you get in the central part of the country. But that's a good time to pray, and you can go at prayingfarmers.com and get more information about that event, Global Agriculture Day of Prayer. Let's talk about your big feeder cattle sales all across the nation on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma. The weather's gotten them the last few weeks there, and they did have a catch-up week here the middle part of this week with their Tuesday calf sale and their Wednesday feeder cattle sale. But 13,200 head for the 2-day sale. That's a big run anywhere. Biggest run we'll see around here for a while. But feeders steady to $2 lower, just like we've been talking on your heavier feeders going right into the feedlot. But calves $7 to $10 higher than the last well-tested market. That's a big gain on your calves. How about winter livestock? Dodge City, Kansas, 3,700 head for them. Now their feeder steers were steady to $2 higher. Feeder heifers steady to $2 lower, so kind of unevenly steady there on the feeder cattle as a whole. Steer calves $10 higher. Heifer calves $3 to $7 higher, as guys are just really, really going after these. A lot of them are buying those calves to turn out on grass later this spring. They're just going to get them home and kind of keep them alive and keep them dry wintered, keep them fresh and green, so that they'll hit the ground running whenever it's time to turn out on that early grass. Hopefully we have some, but we're going to need some moisture, guys. How about the big sale that we saw on Wednesday? Torrington livestock markets, 5,600. All they could call the calves was sharply higher. And you've seen the quotes I gave you in the Southern Plains there, but at Torrington on Wednesday they had several reputation long strings on there, and that's always going to bring about a lot of competition, a lot of bidding activity, and the calves are sharply higher. But those bigger calves and the feeder cattle weighing over 700 pounds were $3 to $6 lower. So you see how sharp the contrast is there on your bigger feeders and on your lighter weight calves. How about some individual quotes around the circuit? Farmington Regional Stockyard. I told you about them on our last visit that Wednesday they were going to be having a big pre-back sale there, and they had some long strings, some reputation deals, and some heavily backgrounded and preconditioned cattle on there, and they did, and they sold well. How about a stick out quote? In southeast Missouri, 74 head, 619 pound steers bring $186.50. How about a big sale in Creston, Iowa? Creston Livestock Auction there. They had several big quotes, but I picked out this one. 73 head, 760 pound steers at $170. But for the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday in your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, got to go back up to Torrington Livestock Markets and the Sanger Ranch from Saratoga, Wyoming. They had their cattle in there on Wednesday, and they always bring about a lot of interest there. They sold 216 head of 564 pound fancy steers at $232. But the biggest quote that I saw was 150 had 644 pound steer calves at 206.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.